Joining us now on the program as we celebrate 50 years of operations at one of Michigan's iconic music venues, Pine Knob, are the children of the developer of Pine Knob, Joe Locricchio Sr., Ginny Zerang, and Joe Locricchio Jr. Join us now on the Michigan Megacast. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Appreciate having you both on. So just a few days ago, June 25th, marked the 50th anniversary of the first event that was ever held at this concert venue located in Clarkston, Michigan, by David Cassidy from the Partridge Family. And so both of you are with us today. Your father was the developer. He worked a lot in the Troy area. Can you tell us about some of the other developments that he worked on before Pine Knob that kind of led to that inspiration for this iconic venue?
But he started off as a concrete contractor, and then he got into land and building development and primarily in industrial parks. So he did many of the original industrial parks that you see in Troy along Stevenson Highway as well. And many of the buildings and parks that he built are still standing, and I still run into tenants that, are in buildings of his that were built that many years ago. So that was kind of his foray into the development side, was doing these large industrial parks. And then he built the Troy Hilton at Stevenson and Maple, in 68 probably. And so 68, 69, 70, that area. And so, that's how we really got into, having the eye for development and a project like Pine Knob.
What do you both remember about the process that your dad went through to develop these different places, whether it be the office buildings in Troy or someplace as iconic as Pine Knob? What do you remember about the work that he put in, the passion he put in, and just the amount of time that he put in to really making these places functional for what they were for what the purpose was, but also unique and different for that area that they're in?
Well, Ginny, go ahead. Do you want me to?
No, go ahead, and then I'll talk. Okay.
So, the thing about my dad was he was really a visionary and did stuff, ahead of the curve oftentimes. And that was clearly the case with Pine Knob in many respects. But like even with his industrial parks, he was early in to do those. Recognized the need, identified the good land opportunities, understood the dynamics of real estate in terms of, activity, growth, road networks, everything else. Pine Knob was a little bit of an outlier in that regard because it was in Clarkston, 35 miles north of Detroit. But it's specific purpose and vision was, it needed an area like that. It needed the land mass, which was hard to assemble in Detroit or Oakland County or, Wayne County, where many of his projects were. So, when you're developing, it takes vision for what you have in mind. And he certainly had that. And, industrial parks, office parks, they're simpler in that regard, in that you recognize growth patterns and needs and address those. Something like Pine Knob was a little bit different because it was pioneering. But he certainly had all that vision, all that creativity. And so when he saw something, he went after it.
Yeah, he was very passionate. When he would get involved in something, he would just take it on full force. And he just always saw that he could do things and always felt that his ideas could always be possible. And he just worked tirelessly. I mean, he would work literally around the clock. He did with getting Pine Knob. I know you had the pictures up there of the development, and he was out there with all of the crew working on it himself, like to get it open in record time.
And just knowing, Ginny, that your father had put so much of that passion and professional work ethic into creating a place such as Pine Knob that was really going to be one of a kind in the music industry and in the entertainment industry at that time. And now that it is one of those iconic venues in the entire state of Michigan, really in the Midwest in terms of entertainment venues, how do you feel, and how does your family feel knowing that he put so much of this passion into this facility, and now it is 50 years later one of the more iconic venues for any entertainment in the entire state of Michigan?
Oh, I mean, we're incredibly proud and just so excited that it's getting recognized for what he did and how he created it. And because there wouldn't be a discussion about a music theater if it wasn't for my dad. And he was really a unique person, and he deserves the acknowledgement. Not even that he would have necessarily wanted that upon him, but he certainly, deserves it.
To build a venue like this that is so unique, both by design, but also by acoustics, given that it's outside, but it's also kind of indoors, you got to kind of understand how audio works, how music works, how different forms of entertainment works. How much of a passion did your father have? Joe, let's go with you on this one. How much of a passion did your father have for something like music, knowing that that this place was intended for musical artists in a artistic hub like Detroit or like the state of Michigan to be performing at for years to come?
Yeah, he was always really, really into music. Always, ever since we were little kids. I can remember he always had music of one form or another. He was always searching out different music genres for sure. And anytime we were driving with him, he always had, at the time, the 8-track loaded up, and I can remember so many of his 8-tracks. He loved Pink Floyd. He loved the Guess Who, Brett. He liked the Moody Blues. He liked jazz. He just liked different aspects of music, and kind of we were weaned on that, and so. He was really into it. The other thing he was into, or was willing to do, was like, even with the sound system and things like that, and the lighting systems, the lighting rigs, the soundboards, he would seek out. He had the vision and the insight, the thought to go out and get the experts, get the guys that really had done it and that were pioneering in their own right in terms of sound and lighting and the thrust stage component, the design of the stage, how it projected out into the audience was kind of a pioneering, cool thing at the time. And, the audience was literally wrapped around the artist for the most part. And so he really took a lot of time to invest in those things, not just, get people in the door and here you are listening to music. It was the entertainment experience. So yeah.
And it's not just a shell, where you see a lot of these outdoor venues now that are just the shell and they don't acoustically treat it properly, and so sound is all over the place. And my husband's a sound engineer, so I get this lesson quite a bit, but my dad also had seen these venues around here popping up back in the day, and that made a big difference because of how he treated the outdoor venues so acoustically well.
And Jen, let's continue with you. Your father's business partner in development of places such as Pine Knob. We don't want to leave him out of the story either. His partner, Gary Francel. Can you tell us about Gary and his contributions to the creation of Pine Knob, but also just his partnership with your father and how much of an impact that had on his ability to visualize and bring to fruition such iconic places such as Pine Knob?
Was that for me or for Ginny?
That was for Ginny.
So Gary was more behind the scenes. He and my dad were very opposite each other. Gary was more in the business aspect of behind the scenes, the finance, but they complemented each other well. So Dad was always creative, more the visionary, and just them coming at it from two different perspectives, they were able to bring really nice balance together with each other.
Gary was also a construction guy and was able to, while my dad was, looking at maybe the more creative side of things, Gary was a nuts and bolts guy, not only the finance side, but also was a nuts and bolts construction guy who was able to run projects, keep other aspects of their business going, while my dad was doing Pine Knob or, the Aladdin, for instance, when that came about. But anyway.
We're joined by Ginny Zerang and Joe Locricchio Jr. joining us on the Megacast. They are both the children of Joe Locricchio Sr., who was the developer behind Pine Knob Music Theater located in Clarkston, Michigan. And he's had your father's life and his career certainly has had an impact on both of you and where you both went in your life. Ginny, now you are you now work in real estate in the Chicago area. Joe, you are yourself a developer. Let's start with you, Ginny. What sort of impact did seeing your father's work growing up and experiencing that with him as a family have on ultimately your career path and the way that you approach your career?
Well, he was always so particular about quality and about pointing out good quality versus shoddy work, to be honest with you. So that was very particular for him. And he would always surround himself with some of the best people, like Joe was saying, even whether it's the construction guys or the audio people. And he also brought a lot of passion, and he was very generous in his spirit. And that has carried forward with me going into real estate, which can be very cutthroat and people can be very competitive. I just tried to lead with that same spirit and guide my clients that way with, getting them to look at the quality and just understanding it from what I understood from my father.
And Joe, you're a developer yourself now. How did your father's career path and his experience and your experience of seeing him work end up influencing your career?
Well, it had a heck of a lot to do with it, just from, kind of an entrepreneurial slant and, having a desire to work for myself. Ultimately, that came, of course, directly from him. And when you like just kind of thinking about vision, land, opportunities, real estate's exciting. It can be really great and really rewarding, or it can really hurt you. So, you run the risk both ways. And so I guess that's part of the fun and part of the challenge, but just his kind of his look at things, the autonomy it provides for you. That's really what kind of drove me to want to do what I do in real estate development and general contracting. And so it had everything to do with it for me. Just being raised that way, being on construction sites early, watching land be developed, watching bulldozers and graders and scrapers work was really, really cool and really influential.
Well, Ginny, Joe, we appreciate both your time and telling us more about your father and his impact, immense impact on the entertainment industry here in the state of Michigan and architecture in Lower Michigan as well. Appreciate both of you being on.
Thank you so much.